Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Brothers Need Therapy with your favorite soldier turned aspiring therapist turned artist, Forrest, which is me. I know it's been a while. It's been a long while since I've done one of these. Went on a Brothers Need Therapy hiatus. There's been a lot of life, I have recently moved to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta to be exact. Uh, and yeah, that was an interesting move. I'll talk about that probably on a different platform, or I'll sprinkle in here a little bit. But the reason why I had to kind of slow down on Brothers Need Therapy, I was doing too much. I had too much going on. In Atlanta, I was trying to do stand up comedy, do my music, and then I also had to pay bills. So I was doing a lot of driving for Uber. Well, not a lot, maybe like 4 hours, maybe five a day. So glad I ain't doing that shit. So glad. Um, yeah, I had to get out of the United States because Americans are getting priced out of America, and I was just getting my disability check, and I had debt that I needed to pay off. So that's where the whole Uber thing came in. And I gave Atlanta a good two. Well, it was the second time I lived there, but I gave it another 2 year run, and eventually I was like, you know what? My art isn't going where I feel it should go. My comedy, I got blacklisted by like 3 spots, and the music was bubbling a little bit, but I wasn't getting no checks for placement. So I was like, you know what, I'm up out of here, and I'm glad I made the move. Definitely for mental health reasons. It's way more peaceful down here. Cost of living is a lot less. I'm actually looking into an apartment across from where I'm staying now. I think it's a 2 bedroom. I gotta go check it, like go inside and look, but I think it's a 2 bedroom for about 800 a month. You ain't getting that shit in like if you find a place like that in the States. Oh, it's in the trappiest of the trap. I remember I had a 2 bedroom house that I was renting doing grad school that was 800, and I was, hey, you ain't never gonna get that shit again. But let's go ahead and get right into it. What do I feel like talking about on this episode? I was listening to an episode of Death, Sex, and Money, and it was a comedian. She was talking about her domestic violence experience. And her complex PTSD, which CPTSD is something rather new to me because I did go to school to be a therapist. I thought I wanted to be a clinical therapist. I actually interned at the VA for a year during my last year of grad school. And then I realized this is too much work, too much stress, and not enough pay for your boy. So I do know the basics. I do know how to conduct therapy, but I'm not up on the latest and greatest terminology. Uh, you know, and CPTSD, I was like, what's that? It's like, damn, they're adding to it. It's complex now. Because I was diagnosed with PTSD after I got out the army. Well, yeah, as I was getting out the army because of my war experience. But I learned later that um, I had PTSD already from the physical abuse that I experienced from my father, which I know every time I talk about it, I bring it up that, I forgave him. Well, I forgave myself first. I feel that's important to talk about. He has passed. He passed away in 2022. But I feel like it's important to bring that part up because forgiveness is very important. Forgiveness is for you, not necessarily for the other person, but for you. It was a beautiful moment because at first when I had brought up, because I really didn't know, I didn't learn that I was abused until I worked for Child Protective Services. And there was this incident where I had a case where there was a kid, he was from an African family, and he was on the autism spectrum, but he had trouble reading. And so his mom would beat him to the point where he would bleed through his pants. And I guess they were putting salt on his wounds. It's like some nasty shit. And when we did the investigation, I had to take him to um, they had a special investigator with the police, and I had to be there as you know. She took pictures and took down his pants, and I'm like, oh shit. It reminded me of myself. Now I never got beat to the point where I was bleeding externally, but I used to get beat pretty fucking bad. So, I mean, I'm light, so but either way, like it was severe bruising. Bruising to the point where if I would have showed somebody, the people would have came. And I was uncomfortable in there, and I was almost was I like, can I excuse myself? And she's like, nope, you got to get through it. And I was like, damn, dog. And I was just thinking about the time there was. I think I pretty much remember every single whooping that I got, and this is how and it was very during my generation. I'm 42, so my generation is like, oh, you got whoopings already. It's just it's what comes with the territory. But nah, them was slave beatings that I got, and um, I remember every one, and because there is pretty much the whole. The only times I really get in trouble was when I got in trouble at school, or I would try to hide something, and then my parents found out, and then my mom would be on the phone with my teacher for hours. I actually had a teacher, God rest her soul, Miss Ringo, my 7th grade science teacher, who had a jerry curl, but she used to tell my parents to beat me. You told Harpo to beat me. But yeah, mom would be on the phone for hours, and the whole time, like my stomach is heavy. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna get beat. And then, as she got the phone, my parents would lecture me for at least an hour, and I would, and a lot of it, my parents are very, they both came out of our religion, so there was a lot of scripture reading, and then we go to that bathroom, and I would try to plead my case. Nope. And then I'm trying to see how much I can get through this without getting choked up. We'll see how much healing I've gone through. But yeah, my dad, he would tell me to turn around, pull down my pants, and he would go to town. The first 5 licks I could handle, but after that, nope. And there were times when I piss on myself or I dookie on myself. Man, it's just interesting how trauma really affects you, because as I'm talking through it, I could smell I can just the tense smell of feces in there, and I'll just be screaming. I felt like I was gonna die, and I didn't get that experience feeling like I was gonna die until I joined the Army, and I went to the gas chamber and the basic training, and I couldn't breathe, and I had a fucking panic attack, and but every time I just remember my dad telling me, move your hand, and one of the worst whoopings that I got. My dad used to whip me with his left hand. No. My dad was ambidextrous, but his dominant hand was left-handed. But he would always whoop us with it. Me and my little brother, he would whoop us with his right. And I don't know what the fuck I did to piss that man off. But he whooped me with his left, and I would try to shield my behind with my arm. and he damn near broke my arm, and it was all bruised up and shit. And we ended up going to church that night, and so I had to wrap it up with ace bandage. And I probably told some lie when I got there. So that was one of the worst ones. And then the other worst one was I think it had to be the last one that I got. It was either in 7th or 8th grade, maybe 8th, I think. And I felt like the teacher had lied on me. And so my dad, he, of course, spared the rod, spoiled the child. He whooped me, and I was like, "Nah, this is it. This the last one, homie." And I think I tried to grab the paddle and throw it away, and next thing you know, we on the ground like wrestling. I'm like, this nigga trying to kill me. And I'm pretty sure that was the last time that I got a whooping. And when I later brought up that my dad, I told him, I was like, Pops, you used to go too hard, man. And he kind of, at first he didn't really get it. And I was like, what the fuck, you don't get it? But then I started hearing more of his story and how he was raised and how he was disciplined. And I was like, oh, okay. To him, this is normal. And I also feel like my dad, well, one, I used to lie. Lying comes from fear. Like, you're trying to lie to get out of some situation because you're afraid of shit. And I'd be thinking how many whoopings I could have got out of if I would have told the truth. But kid, you're a fucking teenager. That shit was too much like right at the time. And my dad, he just didn't like. He felt like I should have been able to come to him, but it's like, fuck. I come to him and then I got to hear my mom about this shit. So I was like, let me try to lie to get out of the situation. And a lot of my lies, they just didn't. Yeah, it wasn't that. And also too, I think my dad. A lot of the things, the verbal abuse that he dealt with in the Army, just dealing with my mom because my mom had a mouth on her. Love you, Mom. I think a lot of that anger came out during those whoopings. I felt like my pops used to zone out and he used to just go to town and shit. And yeah. And of course, the history of, plantation, how they was handled and then passing it on down. You just thought, hey, this is what we do. And then he called me once. I was actually in Atlanta. I was fucking with this one. Oh, my goodness, my favorite little Aries. Damn, I miss her, dog. We got matching corn on the cob tattoos. But I was with her, and he called and he apologized, and we both cried, and it was a beautiful moment. I'm glad we got to have that moment before he passed away. And so how does that trauma, all right, so here we go. Let's ask a therapist question. How does that trauma affect me? Because if you never read the book, which I never finished it, at some point I'll get through it. It's a very kind of academic book, but The Body Keeps Score. So how my trauma affects me is that I could not pee around people. For real. I could not pee around people. I didn't like nobody around me because I just thought about like before like the whooping or whatever. I either pee. My dad at least would try to let me pee first or whatever. And I knew once I got done peeing, it was whooping time. So my body was like, "Yo, somebody around?" Nah, homie. It was really bad. Like when I was going through MEPS. Processing for the Army, when you take your drug test, there are people around, and I couldn't pee, and so I drank so much water that I ended up throwing up. It's crazy. What else? I don't. Not only because of the going Iraq, but I don't like. I'm very uncomfortable with people standing behind me. Right. If I feel somebody's presence like right behind me, I'm always looking over my shoulder. What else? My short-term memory took a big hit between physical abuse, um, then war, and then drugs. So there's that. Uh, I sucked my fingers for a long time. I didn't learn I didn't know that was a trauma response. I learned that later. I used to suck my middle and ring finger on my right hand, and I actually got a callus on it. I stopped sucking it on pause. I think right around six. Once I got to definitely sixth grade, like I wouldn't do it at school, but I'll do it at home. And then maybe once I got to middle school, that's when it stopped. Like quick cold turkey, I guess, because being around more girls and shit, puberty and all that stuff. I'm trying to think what else. Is there any other physical responses? I don't know if it was because of that. I remember when I was younger, I would sleepwalk. I was sleepwalking to my parents' room. I would piss in their trash can. It's weird, man. So how did my trauma, because it's one thing about trauma and pain, especially amongst black people, is we will pass that shit like a blunt. And I definitely passed mine. So not only was I physically abused by my father, I was emotionally neglected by my mother. Pretty much my mom stayed home with me up until I was 7, so that's when we were tight. But once she went back to school, got her degrees, and started working in the workforce, that's when that separation happened. And how my trauma manifests itself with others is, well, one, with the physical abuse, I took that shit out on my ex-wife. Yep, a lot of domestic violence in our house. We were both the firstborn. She was from the north side of St. Louis. North side, shout out to Sexy Red. But yeah, and then I'm pretty sure her dad used to physically abuse her. I really, like, we were very in love, but we were like each other's escape. But we never really took the time to get to know each other, like really, really, really get to know each other. So I don't know too much of her background, but anytime we argued, and and once again, like my dad was very passive. And my mom, you could say my dad was he was a short king. He was a little on the beta side. And so my mom was a little bit more dominant. I'm probably being nice because other people, where they talk about it, it's like, your mom ran the house. But yeah, and I swore I was like, that shit ain't gonna happen to me. Fuck that. And so like me and my ex-wife, I'm gonna call her Mickey, just easier because I don't feel like saying ex-wife all the fucking time. So anytime me and Mickey got into a disagreement, and we used to fight maybe quarterly. And I only remember about, I can give you 2 situations where I knew why we were fighting. But we would get into an argument, it would escalate, and then maybe I would grab her. I don't know, like a lot of this, and I'm trying to give as much, like I don't want it to be like, oh, you're only telling half the story, and you're trying to make yourself look good. No, motherfucker, that's not what I ever want to do. Like I want to be able to give people as much of the story. I don't ever want people to put me on this fucking pedestal, because I've done a lot of fucked up foul shit. And I had to really forgive myself for a lot of it. So if I'd say, hey, I don't remember this, it's not like I'm trying not to remember it. It's because my brain is like fucking pushed a lot of that shit out. And I eventually want to do ayahuasca so I can face a lot of these traumas. But yeah, we used to, and then she would, like, oh, I'm gonna call the police, and I'm like, no, you're not. So we fighting over the phone. But the thing is, like, I couldn't fight. Like, I wasn't a fighter. I was a lover, but I would try to fight her, or we would try to fight each other. And I would always come out looking like I took the L because she would be scratching my face and shit. I'll go to work with a bunch of scratches on my face. One of the times I definitely remember one of our fights was this is like we was staying with her cousin. It's like after we had got evicted, we was couch surfing for a while. We was staying with a cousin on the north side of St. Louis, right there in Cope Brilliant. Yeah. I was doing medical studies to get extra money, and so I was doing like I was doing medical studies, and I was also working at Barnes. I was a lab tech, and I was there for about 4 years, and I didn't know how the fuck I was gonna get up out of there. I had tried to apply to the police department. I was waiting on that, and then I finally got a job at WashU Med School that was gonna pay more. And so since I had been at Barnes for a long while, and at Barnes, like, I saw people get trapped there. Like, they were there for years, 20 years. I'm like, because I only made like about $9 an hour. I was like, no, I always knew that. Always knew that there was more for me. And the coworkers that threw me a going away party, but I had to get to a medical study that night. I thought I could fit it all in, and I got drunk. I should not have been driving. Made it home, and I was supposed to take Mickey and the kids to her mom's house, and then I was gonna go out to the med study. And Mickey was like, we're not getting the car. I'm not getting put my kids in that car when you in this situation. And I'm all like, I gotta get this money. I'm thinking about this fucking money. I'm already not getting no fucking help on the aggression is gonna come out. I gotta get it out. So, I was like, I'm not getting no fucking help. I'm the sole breadwinner. Every once in a while, Mickey would help her mom, with stuff, make a little money here and there. And she did work for about 3 weeks. But I was carrying the weight of a wife and 2 kids making $9 an hour. We were couch surfing, and I was 21, 22 at the time, right around there. And so, like, she's like, I'm not going with you. And I'm like, all right, fuck. And then next thing I know, we fighting. Or we like, I don't know what we were doing. We was arguing, and her cousin's trying to calm us down. And I yelled out, I was like, yo, that's why your daddy used to beat your ass. And then next thing I know, I saw a fist, and it hit me right in my eye. And I'm like, fight's over. And I had a black eye. And I had to show up to work, my new job, with a black eye. I lied to him and told him that I had gotten into a car accident. So that was the one time I do remember. There was another time we fought. This is before we got evicted. I wanted to go to the strip club, the Pink Slip on the east side, East St. Louis, with my partner. She didn't want me to go. We fought, still went. There was another time. The only time I feel like I really, really, really initiated something, we were fighting. I had her on the ground. I was on top, and I was just slapping her and shit, call her mama. There was another time we had finally got a place on the south side, and by then she was checked out mentally, and she was cheating on me. I'm an investigator, so I put some program on the computer where I could track her conversations. And I saw that she was having an online relationship with some dude, and I read the convo, and I said, like, she showed this nigga her titties, and I fucking lost it. So I went in the room. She was asleep, dragged her out to bed, and then something told me to fucking stop. And so I'm walking downstairs. She's following me, and I slammed the door behind me, and it jammed her, fucked her foot up. Yeah, and I also called dude. It wasn't Steve Smith. But yeah, I called him, and he was like, she told me you were the roommate, and then she was paying the bills. I'm like, what the fuck? At this time, I am working 2 jobs. I was working at WashU Med School from 12 to 8. Yeah, noon to 8. And then I was working at UPS from 10 to 2 in the morning. I'm literally falling asleep on the road and shit. And then, so there's that. That's the physical violence, how that manifested in my life. With my kids, emotional neglect. I think that's the one that I see. This shit is interesting to deal with because I remember I talked about some of this with on TikTok, and somebody asked how my relationship with my kids was, and pretty much right now it's damn near non-existent. I'm trying to do a better job of sending my son money every month, and he accepted, so that's something. But I was so I was so caught up with Mickey and the shit we were dealing with that I didn't know how. I don't know. I didn't know how to relate to my kids. I didn't know how to be a father. Like I really didn't know how to nobody sat down like and you're like, oh, your dad was in your life he was in the home, but and he used to do things with us, but we never had a relationship. Like my dad would take me and my brother bowling. We played fly kites. We would go to activities, but we never had that relationship. My parents talked a lot, both of them, but we never talked about the shit that was important. I was in the house with 3 other people, and we didn't know each other at all. Like me and my brother, just in the last, I'll say 5, almost. Well, since 2019. Yeah, since almost 5 years. Yeah, we've been working on our relationship and gotten closer. Um, I have this. We have this theory that we don't have the same dad. He's darker than me, and I don't know. I feel like that's something my mom would take to the grave. He was born in Germany, and knowing what I know about what went down in the army in Germany, you never know. You never know. And then we, your kids are gonna live out versions of you. And so I don't know. My ex-wife or Mickey, she had 2 kids with 2 other niggas while we were legally married. So I don't know. I wouldn't be mad at my mom if it came out. I would just feel like, damn, you could have told me. Shit, it would have been easier. A lot of this makes sense now. Oh man, yeah. Cause what they try to say, yes, we got 2 dark skinned grandfathers. I don't know. Uh, we don't have no confirmation, so it's just a fun theory to run with. But yeah, also back to the emotional neglect with my kids. Like out of the 7 years that I was in the army, 7 years, 3 months, I got treated like a prison bed. I was gone by 4.5. And anytime I would come back, I would have the kids and I'd be at my parents' house with them. And my dad, I was somewhere else mentally. Then also too, being in the army, a lot of feelings and emotions, that shit gets cut off, especially when you're getting ready for war. And I just feel for my kids because my actions, like the petty things that I used to do to get at Mickey, is I would cut off the money. She was fucking around with some dude, cut off the money. Um, I think right around my daughter was maybe 5, 6, something like that. She was very angry. That girl was angry. And my son, he internalized a lot of stuff. And my kids let me see, my son, he will be 23 in a couple weeks. and my daughter will be 22 in August. And I tried to develop a relationship with them when I moved down to Houston, but me and her mom still couldn't get on the same page. And I felt like I was just the errand boy, like I was her second husband because she got remarried. And we never dealt with our shit. And once again, I didn't know how to talk to my kids. I didn't know how to have that relationship. I wanted it, but then also too, I was still dabbling. Like I don't know, I was smoking a lot of weed at the time. Still dabbling with Molly and shit. And then since my kids weren't like that relationship really wasn't there, I was stuck on whatever flavor of the month I was fucking with. So there's that. And it's not easy talking to it's easy for me to talk about this shit with women that I'm with. Now for them to process all of it, nigga, let me tell you. This one young lady that I was fucking with, I was talking about my traumas and shit, and she was like, "Can you just stop? This is just too much right now." I'm like, "Damn, bitch, I had to live it." There was another woman recently that I was talking to about some of the stuff, I went through, and I could just see the look, the kind of almost the uncomfortable look on her face, and I'm like, "Damn, what the fuck?" I'm gonna go and start wrapping this up. I think it was more of a venting set, man. Therapy, venting. We getting out. Venting is therapy. This is why I want my vision for Brothers Need Therapy is to introduce men to traditional and non-traditional therapy, and to also provide a space for men to place their pain, because there aren't too many places where men could be vulnerable and place their pain. Because even when I watch niggas cry on camera, men, niggas, whoever, Chinese dude, whatever, that masculinity in my head is like, quit crying, little bitch. But then it's like, I'm glad he's getting it out. So once again, I want this to be a space for men to be able to get our pain out. Get it out at Brothers Need Therapy versus getting it out in the form of hitting your old lady, hitting your kids, going to the needle, going to the crack pipe, fucking 50 million women, because that's another trauma response. Or whoever, and just a lot of reckless behavior. I want to see restoration of relationships because of Brothers Need Therapy. The motto of it is healed men, heal communities. And my vision is for us to go global. Like I want to be able to sit in a room of men, different nationalities, different races, and different sexual identities, and just talk about the things we've been through. Talk about what it means to be a man. Talk about masculinity. Talk about trying to raise a family, trying to be a father, trying to be a brother, trying to be a son, trying to work, trying to make money, try to be a provider. And I'll wrap up on this note, because on paper, being a man is easy as fuck. But in actual practice, this shit's hard. It's not easy. And if you're like, oh, how the fuck can you say that? Go look out on the streets. Go out. Who do you see more homeless out there? Because women, somebody always gonna kick the tire on them. Especially a black woman. Like if you see a black woman out on the streets, she either hoeing, she probably got somewhere to go. But a homeless black woman, either her mental health is all the way fucked up, or she on drugs. And also too, right, a lot of people don't know how to handle men and their mental health. So as I learn, and the things that I learned through this journey, I want to pass along on here. I will be bringing back the website, Brothers Need Therapy. I don't know what the last part of it will be. We also got merch. It's on Redbubble. And any donations, any merch buying is gonna go right back into Brothers. This is my passion project. I don't want to make no money off this shit. If anything, I want to be able to have scholarships for men to pursue their dreams, to be able to give men money to leave their jobs and just do what the fuck they want to do. Or if they want to go to school, like, yo, here's your scholarship. Plan on having a scholarship named after my father. I really miss that dude. I know I said I was going to close it up, but I really miss my dad. It's crazy. He's been showing up in my dreams a little bit more lately. He was one of the, I know I talked about crying on the fucking camera, but my dad was one of the kindest men that I ever knew. And he was the closest thing to God's love that I ever experienced. And so I'm gonna do my best to keep his legacy going, keep his legacy alive. And on that note, that's been Brothers Need Therapy. If you need to reach out, you can hit up on Instagram right now. It's Brothers Need Therapy. If you got questions, concerns, complaints, gripes, stories, any way I can talk you off the edge or anything, hit me up on there. I will definitely let y'all know when the website is back up. That's it. Y'all be great. Take care of yourselves. Peace.